Well, good morning, friends. That was almost a disaster. Well, it kind of was. Oh dear. I looked over just a moment to see what time it was, and I did so. I leaned over a bit too much, and I'm taking precautions. I was wearing a bathrobe, but the bathrobe kind of slid a little bit, and the way the camera was pointed, you guys almost got way more than you bargained for today. I'm terribly sorry about that. Hey, welcome everybody. We're streaming to multiple platforms this morning, including, of course, we got the YouTube happening. Rockfin, which is kind of our new favorite. Although why don't I? Oh, I know why I'm not seeing things. Okay, look at that. So there. That's why you don't. That's why you. So I was in no worry. You guys wouldn't have seen it anyway. Beautiful. Okay, so there we go with that. Now you can see what's going on. Billington, I'm glad you missed it too. So you saw a noodle or noodle vision? Oh dear. Don't please say it's not so. Oh dear. Well, welcome again, everybody. Georgie, great to see you here. Ronald Lee, always a pleasure, my friend. Lungs. Always good to see you. 3 Armstrong. Hey, how are you, Ronald Lee? I guess I'm just going to say it again. I just love you so much. I can't wait to get up there to the cold shores and meet you and get to hang out in person. Always great to see you again, my friend, David Reif. And I know we've got some more people. I just can't see everybody because I'm streaming all over the place, so it makes it kind of weird. Speaking of weird, you can see from the from the clip today, I'm sure you figured it out already. Vic and Tim and the Hood. Any guesses? Anybody want to take a wild guess on what that is? Ceiling Fan Man, welcome, my friend. I will have to say that to some degree, the last couple of streams from my friend Ceiling Fan Man, and if you're not connected to him on Friday night, you should be. Nope, not Friday Night Fights, but the Friday night streams with my friend Ceiling Fan Man. Check him out every Friday night because it's Friday night shy show. But yeah, we have Ceiling Fan Man and I have hung out a fair bit. Not nearly enough, I think. Not nearly enough for my liking, but there. Talk to me in the chat. Hopefully you can see you're still here. Checking internet properties. It says I am blowing and going. You don't hear the show. Uh-oh. Hopefully you'll get it again, Ceiling Fan Man, in just a moment. And there is a fair amount of delay on the Rockfin channel. We've noticed that. Those of us who use Rockfin have noticed that there is a fair amount of delay, one of the more significant delays. I do, yeah, no, we went Silencio, FTFF, I guess. Yeah, I was kind of getting to, if you haven't spent time with Ceiling Fan Man the last couple of weeks, you should. You should make it part of your weekly program. I love his views, and I got to tell you, dude, I love to watch your growth. Man, you're learning in just, I mean, so fast. What it took me so long to learn. And very difficult, painful lessons, and you're just picking right up on them, and I just couldn't be more pleased. I feel like a proud papa. I mean, not that I'm that far ahead of anybody. You're going through some things that I've gone through, I'm familiar with, right? And I've seen that, and I'm like, man, you get it a lot faster than I did. I got to get hit over the head several times, and this is why we had this conversation. And I heard you mention this last night, Mr. CFM, right? And that listener X, and I've gotten similar emails. When we talk about Dad and our relationship with him, some people again will say, "Well, I talk to him and I don't hear anything." And then, of course, often that makes me feel bad because I've had a very, very active and sometimes quite lively conversations with Pops. Now, frankly, and I'll be honest about this, with Dad, the creator, it's pretty rare that we have real communication. Mostly J-Bro, mostly the person I identify as J-Bro. And for those of you who have wonders about this, here's the thing about it. Right, is that there was a comment on, I think, a poppycock report from last week, wherein the last person that talked, we were talking about Dad, and a listener was upset that we referred to the creator in terms of the masculine gender, Dad, and that we were ignoring Mom. Well, to be honest, maybe you just haven't heard that part in which I have spoken at some length about my view. And again, this is I don't know if I want to say contrary to, but it's certainly different from, religious Christian views. And again, I've said over and over that while my perspective is I try to follow the teaching of Jesus because he's been meaningful in my life. It's not a religion. It's not a belief system. It's someone that I know and I've gotten to know over time. And it's not, to me, again, not a delusion in my head. It's not me talking to myself. These people that people, personalities, whatever, beings are way smarter than me and have helped me in ways unimaginable. So again, it's I've looked at it in so many ways and trying to figure out, even allowing for, could you be crazy? Well, yeah, but I'd prefer to be crazy. And it's made this way, and it's made such profound changes in my life. Anyway, to get back to that, I don't really follow traditional Christianity. That's not the path that I'm on. I made direct connection. I grew up in a Christian church, and it was very legalistic. And because of that, I kind of left. I don't know if you want to say it, and just started studying scripture and all kinds of stuff on my own. And then ultimately, made that connection myself. I said, tell me, who you are. And I have always been fairly, I guess, sensitive to unseen things. And so I knew that there was some buddies, and not just somebody, but some buddies. There's good things, there's bad things, there's all kinds of things out there. And so, I knew there was something, and I said, well, you tell me who you are. And over time, I've come to know him. And again, not always a pleasant relationship. I spent years in sort of a standoff, right? Like, you want me to do things that I'm not prepared to do, largely because I had a misapprehension about what that might be and look like. But, there you go. And so to that extent, right, I had a relationship. It just wasn't a great one. And when I finally relented and stopped running and gave in, I was very, in some ways, disappointed in myself, because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to turn into, Ned Flanders or something. Oh, come on, bad fish bear. Come on, you get it. You get it now. Come on. Okay, there you go. I was like, come on, dude. You got this. You got this. All right. And so, it didn't mean to give you a whole testimony thing, just how I got here, to this point, which is to say that many of my views, again, I've arrived at strictly from reading scripture and from experience, observation, and direct relationship with the Creator, right? So I ask questions, and many times those those questions aren't answered in the way I would like, right? So I'll say, hey, what about blah blah blah, or like, hey, who is they, right? Like how can I dick these guys? He's like, how would that help? That's not my plan, dude. Or I'll want to know, hey, is someone so trying to screw me over or whatever? I'll try to ask in stuff like we all like, hey, what's the shape of the earth? He's like, well, that's not really. It's not really germane to the situation. Tell you what, you've got so many things messed up. Why don't we work on those first? And then when those are worked out, then we'll revisit this, right? We'll circle back. Oh, hey, thank you so much, man. That's awesome. I appreciate that. So I'm glad you got the joke, because I tried to make it pretty transparent, yeah, so ultimately, again, my views are really primarily the result of a direct relationship. I don't follow a religion. I don't follow particular religious tenets. I find value in a lot of them, not just Christianity, but a lot of religious tenets that are trying to teach people how to be a better person. And I think that's valuable. But I think ultimately my advice to anyone is, if you really want to progress, and again, I don't claim to know everything. I'm just giving you my experiences. The best progress that I've ever made, and the best that I've ever seen from other people, is to make a direct connection with the Creator, ask all of the questions, and my experience is primarily they want you to ultimately become the person that they meant you to be. And usually that involves a painful process of stripping away the parts that you built yourself, the things that you're really proud of. And the only reason it hurts is because you don't want to let go. However, if you do, and you let the Creator turn you into who you ought to be and who they had in mind, pretty remarkable. There are days I actually kind of like myself, right? And so, Vic and Tim in the hood. It's victimhood. There you go. I've seen a lot of it lately, and that's kind of what I want to get to today. Right, is this idea of what we see around us. You've heard me say on numerous occasions that our society is now glorifying victimhood. Right, the best thing to be is abused and oppressed by somebody else, because then you'll get all the love. Right, then your stuff will go viral on Instagram. If you put up a rainbow flag because you want the money. And I'm gonna show an example of this today, and I, at the risk of, okay, you know what? Can we bookmark this just for a moment? Let me just take a moment. I want to bookmark this. I hope we can all remember and come back to this point. So we're going to talk about victimhood. Okay, we're going to get there. Let me start here. I promised that I would do this for those who have been asking, because there has been a lot of people asking. And I probably could have wrapped with this. I probably will summarize with it again, but I think I owe it to a few people to explain what's happening. A bit slow this morning? Yes, I am. I know what you mean, Ronald, but really, I kind of am. And I have been for a little bit of time. So I promised a few people I'd give you an update on what's happening with Baldini and kind of the medical stuff. And so, again, I don't know very much. Again, finally got some really good insurance, made some appointments, but because of this, current situation in the world, you know what that is. I don't have to say anything more about that. Makes it difficult, and things are kind of pushed out a little bit further. So I'm doing all the paperwork in advance, blah, blah, blah. I had already previously done some tests and some blood work and yada, yada. The basics are I have lots of weird GI stuff over several months, and with increasing frequency and severity, and not seemingly linked to particular things that you would normally think. And so have been trying to figure that out in a variety of methods, but it's not the only thing happening. So there's just some weird things happening. And of course, I mentioned last week that when I went in for some dental, start the dental process, because I got a lot of dental work that needs to be done, they found a lump in my throat. And so I'm got to go deal with that as well. We don't know what it is. Very likely, before you get freaked out, like my lovely bride did, it's very likely just drainage from the infection. There's multiple infections, like has been for months. Many broken teeth and infections created by that then drain down into the lymph nodes and cause inflame, aggravate those and insult them. And so it causes some inflammation and discomfort. So that's the most likely scenario. I mean, it is possible. It could be a variety of other things. But I will say, and I told this to my bride, who was very concerned, that when I did do the first round of lab blood work, which was about 8 months ago. There was no protein indicators for cancers of any kind. So again, we can't 100% rule it out, but cancer leaves a protein signature in your body that is pretty easily to identify. Now, you don't always know what kind it is, and you have to see an oncologist to figure that out. But I don't have any of those markers. I do have some other weird things happening that appeared in the blood work, and it opened the door to what, for all intents and purposes, seems to be a medical wild goose chase, right? It's one of those that I should have visited House, right, if he was a real guy. But I don't have that. Now, fortunately, again, my wife is very, very good at differential diagnosis, in fact, better than many doctors. However, she doesn't have some of the resources, and she also has a predisposition to be, fearful about my health. One can understand that. We love each other. So she always kind of goes to the worst case scenario, which I try to discourage. But anyway, so here's the story. This last week I have been very, very, oh, hey, thank you so much, Bad Fish Bear. That's so very, very kind of you. Lupus, no, it doesn't seem to have those indicators. The things that I had identified early on. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on it because here's what I don't want to do. Right, I won't be the guy who complains, like, oh, I'm sick all the time. I can't stand it, and I understand. Earlier on with the poppycock report, both Rose and I have been going through some stuff, and she didn't want to be that person, right? And so she brushed up against me a little bit and go, hey, stop it, don't talk. Like, I don't want to be the victim. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to. I mean, we're just all concerned, right? And so I understand that. And I absolutely don't want to be the guy that's like, always got something going on, blah, blah, blah. I'm much more likely to say nothing, ever. You're wild. I love you. Thank you. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not, again, I'm not trying to stir up sympathy or anything. It's just I'm kind of struggling to deal with stuff. I put in very little time at work this last week. We had Monday, which was a holiday, but I only got in not even quite 2 full days throughout the rest of the week. It's been really challenging. I've gone from early on, I would have nausea, vomiting, other stuff going on once every 3 or 4 days, and it just kind of kept increasing with frequency and amplitude until more recently. Now it's many times a day, every day, and that's not good. Clearly. And so there have been a couple of new symptoms which are weird. And so I told my lovely bride last night in her deep concern, I said, I'll tell you what, if I'm too unwell to stream in the morning, I'll just go to the ER. I've got, again, excellent insurance. It would only cost like $150 to go to the emergency room. And then that's pretty much it. Like there's no deductible almost at all, no co-pays. It's just, Thank you, Ronald Lee. That's also quitting smoking is on the list, right? That has to be done, in part because just generally I have to do it, and I've been committed to the premise. But now we come in toward the dental stuff, and all these extractions are just absolutely going to have. I'm going to have to quit smoking because otherwise the risk of dry socket syndrome is so high because there's so many. It's ridiculous. Like it's just I can't risk it. So I'm going to have to quit. So there's that. And the other thing, of course, is just for health and a whole bunch of other reasons. And financially, it's somewhat less so because I typically roll my own these days, and it brought the cost down to about 7 cents on the dollar compared to what I was paying retail prices for Marlboros. So. Yes, absolutely. The dental problems could absolutely be 100% responsible for the GI stuff. It could be. There are some other things going on. Again, there appear to be there's been a weird liver panel that's been there for almost 2 years that they've never really looked closely at because it wasn't anything causing any problems. It was just weird. There's a strange enzyme that's present there. Of late, the kidneys have been misbehaving to some degree, and there's been some other weird things that happen. So it could be, and there does seem to be some sort of blockage with the CBD, which is the common bile duct, not the other CBD, the cannabinoid, but common bile duct. So that also could explain stuff. So there's a lot of things that could explain it. That's the weird thing. There's also, I have exactly the symptoms of what is called, oh God, now I'm having a brain fart. It's called cyclical vomiting syndrome. And it's almost exactly the symptoms that I have. And you know what? It's just a catch-all term for like chronic fatigue syndrome. We don't know. You're throwing up all the time. It happens in a regular cycle, and we don't know why. And that's the kind of the worst option, right? Is that you're just stuck with it. There's nothing for it. That would suck probably. So it's actually would almost be better if it was something, but we could address it fairly quickly. I have, keep in mind, guys, I don't really have fear of anything. And my wife and I have had this serious conversation. Like, what if it was, I mean, one of the things that it also kind of looks like, but again, excluding this potential cancer enzyme or protein rather, is that, she's like, well, these are signs. The more recent stuff is, keep in mind, it could be that, you've had, undiagnosed cancer for a long time, carrying it for a while, like a prostate cancer. It goes very slowly, and suddenly it's metastasized, and then you're seeing all these things, and it's cascading. Yes, that kind of looks that way from that perspective. But here's the thing, right? Again, we've had this conversation. One is that if that were the case, right, and if it were like that, I'd simply go, oh, Dad wants me home. Cool. All right, party, because I'm not gonna. I'm not going to go through any extraordinary measures to stay in this place. Are you fucking kidding me? No, that's not going to happen. Again, I'm not in a hurry to jump out. And if it were something minor, of course, I'd take care of it. I'm not. The body is the temple, and I'm not going to disrespect that. On the other hand, if that were the case, I would simply expect that that's what Dad had in mind. All the indications are that's not the case, right? All the indications are that everything that Dad has led me through, he's taken care of us without fail at every turn, right? And again, I apologize to those who aren't in this mindset if you don't deal with the spiritual stuff very well. I understand you came for unintended consequences for the victimhood spiel. We'll get there, I promise. But this is also, it's part of me. It's just integral to who I am. My relationship with Dad, the Creator, and the Creator family is such that that's the primary kind of focus of my life, really. And if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be here, right? And I think those of us in this... those of us on this side of the fence, those of us who see things the way we do, right? Once you are aware that there's a creator and that we live in a creation, and then your eyes begin to open to the fact that this is a spiritual battle, right? I think it makes sense. It's wise to direct your energies onto that spiritual battle rather than the other parts. Right? The other parts, if you approach it that way, the spiritual battle, everything physical will take care of itself because it's supernatural. If you find a physical battle and a supernatural war, well, you're going to lose. I don't know any other way to tell you, right? You're going up against Voldemort with a pea shooter. It's just not going to work, right? So what you need instead is power, real power, and that power comes from the Creator, right? So you trust the Creator. Anyway, so my position really is whatever occurs, right? I'm in Dad's hands. And I understand that there are going to be times when that's not pleasant. And right now it is not pleasant. And I'm doing the best I can with that. And I'm not being hidden about it. I'm doing the things I think I know to do, which is to reach out, ask for help when I need it, be transparent about it, not try to hide it, not try to whine and complain and overly go, because as I get into today's episode, the victimhood, I don't want to do that, and that's just not who I am, so I'm not going to play that. But there you go. That's perfect. But Big Beer. If I live, we live for the Lord. If we die, we die for the Lord. Whatever we do, we belong to God. Right? Bingo. That's it. And I'll take this one even too a step further from Job. See, my relationship with Dad, with the Creator, and this is why, again, the difference between a relationship and a religion or a belief system is so enormous. Is that I don't have to study Scripture, to labor over words to figure out what they mean and look for some esoteric, deeper meaning. Like, what is it hiding something? Is there some secret? Yeah, right? All I got to do is go to Dad and go, hey, help me. And sometimes he points me to exactly what he said already in Scripture, and then he opens my eyes to see it the way I ought to see it. But what I've learned over time in this relationship is that he's good. I mean, good. And I can trust him. And so that's why I can say, as Job did, though you slay me, I will trust you. Because I know that if you slay me, if you end my life, it will be to your glory. And that's all I ever want, right? Whether I live, I want it to be to your glory. If I die, I want it to be to your glory. And whatever I do, let me not embarrass you, right? And I think that's a good transition because I don't want to embarrass my Creator, right? And I worry about that on occasion because I'm fallible. I fall. I'm human. I noted the last couple of days that being ill over such a long period of time just wears you out, right? Especially GI stuff, right? It's just your guts. You just don't feel human all the time. You can't move without feeling sick. You never know when you're going to just throw up, and it's just so gross and embarrassing. And like, it's just a drag, right? I just got to tell you, it's a drag. And when you're not throwing up, then it's coming out the other end. It's terrible. I got to tell you. And again, you don't want to complain because you sound like just a whining little kid. And that's just not me. I don't play that. Most of the time, my wife doesn't know if I'm not feeling well until I'm really, really ill. Because I just don't. I just don't do that. It's just not my way, and I don't think it's helpful, right? So that's part of my personality that I think many people don't really get. Is that often I'll ask very direct questions, or I've noted since early on in my youth that because I observe people and I'm very observant, people are uncomfortable with that. Usually, they don't like to be observed because they're self-conscious. Right. And so if you're observing them and they know you're observing them, they think that either, you're judging them or you're too interested. And I'm just curious about the nature of humanity and what makes people tick. And I just in my nature, especially as I come closer to the Creator, I don't judge people. And what I mean is that I don't say that's necessarily, right or wrong, other than things that are just morally reprehensible. Right. And I would say killing people isn't necessarily wrong. Right. Because there's a time for everything, even defense, right? Defense is, but murder is bad, right? So there's these different things, right? So it is contingent on the intention and the nature of things. So there's a time for all things, but I don't know that person's story, right? And so while I might not have done it, I can't say necessarily that it is a sin, right, or whatever, for them to do it. It's not my place to judge, and that I think is. To me, right, this gets down to the nature of what we would call original sin, and that being, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's not the tree of knowledge; it's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Setting yourself up as God to judge between right and wrong. You are the one who makes that decision, even judging God. Right? Is he good? And if not, I don't like him. In fact, I'm going to pretend that he doesn't exist. There's a big bang. It just magically came out of everything because I just don't like who I think he is, and who you're listening to, the enemy, right? The one who hates him. Because he loves you. Anyway, all that, I suppose, to sort of shed some light on the situation and go, this is my attitude, this is my position, is that I'm not so worried about it, right? I mean, of course it's concerning. Of course it's, I don't have a Pollyanna view. It's a serious situation, and it needs to be addressed and taken care of. But again, Dad has always taken care of me, and always, never too much, never too soon, always exactly the right amount or thing at the right time, sometimes unexpected, but always just when needed. Same, for example, when it comes to insurance. I didn't have insurance, any way to get it. Suddenly, certain things, the stars aligned, and even though we are dealing with the matrix and the government system, they provided an opportunity to get in for a buy-up on insurance, and I got not only insurance, but I got a subsidy for it, and everything worked out. The stars aligned, and even the broker couldn't believe it, that I got a crazy good insurance, the best insurance policy I've ever seen, up for $1.24 a month. I'm like, what is that? Well, it's supernatural. It's a miracle, right? And just the time when I needed it, right? Just the time when I'm in a place to go, okay, I'm prepared. I've got things sort of aligned. I need to get this done before I can leave here, right, and move on to the next step. These things have to be addressed. And so everything at just the right time. Organic aloe vera juice. So what I got to do, Melanie, right, is just go get some actual aloe vera. So weirdly enough, you mentioned this. My dad has, or had, I guess, ulcerative colitis for years, and ultimately had a colostomy. And he did not want to do that. But after he did, about a week later, he was like, I can't believe I waited this long, right? But for a number of years prior to him having had that procedure, the thing that really helped him was fresh aloe vera juice, and he would buy it by the gallon. What we discovered during that time, aloe vera is mostly effective. In fact, most of its effectiveness comes within the first 30 minutes of taking it freshly off the plant. Every minute that it spends no longer attached to the live plant reduces its efficacy. And so the stuff that you buy as a gel or a cream in the store is worthless, basically. The only thing that has any value is juiced, if you take it and juice it, and that's what he would buy it by the gallon at a local place. So it was less than a day old when I got it, but probably had a really effective lifespan of about 5 days for very fresh. So we learned that. And so, this is this is the thing that's going to. So yes, aloe vera, absolutely. I learned that, and I was reminded when somebody told me that. I was like, oh my God, that's the one thing that kept him together for about 4 years, was daily drinking this stuff that I just thought was snot. I tried it. I was like, oh my God, it's just, it's like snot. It's just terrible. But it was effective. And so, yeah, I will take this position also, that everything that we need in this world has been provided by our Creator. So that's cannabis, that's poppies, and that's aloe vera. All the things that we need are provided by the Creator for us. And if we just use wisdom and discernment and know how to use it, right, we'll be okay. I also haven't ruled out, and I'll be honest about this, and I'm put on your tinfoil hat, but my wife and I both at this current time have a variety of increasingly worrisome medical issues. However, hers are, many of them, long-standing and well-known. Right. She had 2 widowmaker heart attacks about 15, 16 years ago. Within 14 months of each other, had a pacemaker and a defibrillator put in. She's got type 1 and 2 diabetes. She's got all kinds of stuff going on, right? All kinds of stuff, because she didn't treat herself well earlier. But, right, she's hanging in there. But here's the thing. So we have very different issues medically, and yet we've been having almost identical symptoms, and at the same time, including some GI stuff and including some other things, headaches and certain things happening exactly at the same time in a way that seems, I'm not a coincidence theorist. And so the fact that we live very close to numerous military and intelligence operations centers, we constantly see these vehicles both in the air and on the ground daily. I mean, we know they're here, and we can certainly the aircraft come by. We know all sorts of stuff is going on. There's all kinds of I've tested, and there's all kinds of strange radiation happening around us, including frequencies that are mixed frequencies. So that was interesting to me. They're modified frequencies, and I'm sure that's a military thing. They're taking 2 separate broadcast frequencies and combining them together, and that creates kind of a algorithm, if you will. They're digital broadcast signals, and so I catch them, but I can't do anything with them. I can see what's happening, but I can't do anything with it, meaning that they're doing, and they're really high energy. That's the thing. And these high energy frequencies is what cause ionizing radiation. And so all the symptoms that we're having are also consistent with ionized radiation poisoning. So there's that. So we also want to get the hell out of. That's another reason to get out of here. So that having all been said, I have spent way too much time now talking about Baldini. But enough about Baldini. What do you think about Baldini? No, just kidding. Let's dig into it, shall we? Anyway, so I told people I would give them an update. I'm still alive. Rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated. No, frankly, I have not been doing well the last couple of days. It's been really difficult, and I'm pleased as punch just that I feel well enough to be here with you today. The last several times I've managed to even get out of bed, I just instantly started throwing up, and it's just tiresome, right? I'm just tired. I'm just tired of it. So I take any prayers and positive intentions. Last night during Ceiling Fan Man stream, I was really ill and a terrible headache. I could barely chat. I was just laying there in agony. All of a sudden, people started praying for me, and I was like, it worked. I had taken already like 2 Advil and a Tylenol and an aspirin. It didn't touch it. Didn't put a dent in it. And almost immediately, when people began praying, I felt better. It didn't make it go completely away, but it made it bearable. And so, thank you, friends, for that. And thank you again all for being here. It's such a delight to spend time with you, and I've missed you so much. During the time that I've been away and been feeling ill. So let's dig in. So what am I talking about here? Why did I show these 2 guys in the hood, right? So Vic and Tim in the hood. Oh, we got that. Victimhood. Well, clearly my point is not that you should be a victim. That's quite the opposite. Because victimization largely is a matter of fear, right? And God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. We're all, I think, on the same page with this, that fear is the primary motivating tool that they use to program people. They do offer, the carrot and the stick, and the carrot can be a donut or free beer or a concert or, whatever. But the stick, in this case, I don't think I have to say much more than this at the risk of channel strikes, but the stick is that you don't get to engage in society. Now, again, I'm like, don't threaten me with a good time. Not engage in society. Woot. Yeah, that sounds good. But ostracization to the point where now, again, you're being threatened with criminal action for not following along with their delusion, right? Something that was posted on Facebook this week, and I guess I'll share this with you. Let's see here. Let me do it this way. Do this and this. I'll just keep a couple of things going here. So I got tabs moving. I want to just make sure not lose this. Okay. So a couple of things here. Let's see if I can find this. Things that I saw on social media this week. Let's see if I can find this. Okay. So are you familiar with the Asch conformity experiments? Just a little reminder, these were psychological experiments done in the 1950s. Let's see. Just see if I can bring up the... All right. A series of experiments performed by Solon and Asch during the 1950s, and this is the entire premise, right? It's called conformity experiments because he brought a variety of people in and did a series of experiments, and basically what he came to was the conclusion through observation that people are willing to ignore reality and provide a knowing incorrect answer in order to conform to the rest of the group, to not be ostracized. That's the basic premise. There are a number of different things that happen, including one of the most famous is that a subject was invited to go into a room and they were waiting to meet to do a thing, right, with other people. And so everybody was in the know except for the one person, the subject. And there's a group of people and they go into a room and they're kind of in a boardroom waiting for an instructor to come in and give them further directions. During this period of time while they're waiting, they inject what appears to be smoke. Of course, it's just stage smoke, but they inject smoke through the ventilation system. The purpose of the experiment was to determine how long it took the subject to report the threat. Well, the caveat and the trick here, of course, is that everyone in the know, when they see the smoke, pretends to ignore it, or clearly see it and pretend that it's no threat. Nearly all of the subjects ignored the risk of life simply to fit in. They were too embarrassed to bring it up. Nearly every single subject ignored entirely smoke because they were afraid of being embarrassed. I think I don't have to say much more about how that relates well to the situation that we find ourselves in now in the world around us. And especially in a world where, as the title suggests, victimhood is being glorified. And it is this victimhood and the glorification of it that leads directly to cancel culture. Hi, Hyatt. Welcome. So, again, I don't think I have to explain cancel culture, what that is. People get offended, usually because they feel like somebody's giving them microaggression. And so they invent terms, right? They categorize and label people. And so the whole point here is that you must be labeled. You have to use identification tags that divide people. It's necessary in order to make this work. You can't have an oppressed status. You can't have a victimized group if you don't give them a label. I'm sure you're familiar with the most recent one, which is the idea of there being Asian hate in the United States. I've been here for more than half a century. I've never seen it. I've seen people get hated on individually for being assholes, and we'll talk about that, but not because of their race. There is no longstanding cultural race problem in the U.S. In fact, most cities in the U.S. that have what's called Chinatown, which again is not politically correct these days, it's a tourist trap. People go there because they love it, not because they hate it. It's ridiculous. Everything that they tell you, again, it flies in the face of what you can perceive with your own senses. And this is the actual purpose of the study. It's called ASCH, Chris, Asch conformity experiments. Solomon, Solomon, Asch, Asch, during the 1950s. The Asch conformity experiments. So everybody now rushes to be a victim, because the bigger victim you can be, the more celebrity status you can achieve. And this has occurred in the last few years. In fact, I've been following fairly closely for the past 6 or 7 years, when it became more and more common that you would see what we call here in America hate crimes. Somebody painting the N-word on the outside of somebody's house, right? Or painting swastikas at synagogues. And in nearly every single one of the well-publicized cases, I'm talking about the ones that hit the news media, and especially the ones that make the national rounds, but in nearly every single case, ultimately the perpetrator was found to be the victim themselves. They did it to themselves for the direct reason of gaining sympathy, notoriety. One here in Seattle was a young African-American man, and did the same thing, and he was running for city council. And it was the first time I saw it in the news, I was like, that story doesn't hold up. And yeah, it took about 3 days for the cops to come back and go, no. Most of the time, that doesn't happen, right? Most of the time, we don't get the rest of the story because the first part of the story fit the agenda. And then the rest of it doesn't. And so, like most things, they'll tell you the lie, just not the clarification of the truth. Or there might be, they don't issue a retraction, just a small correction, right, in the fine print. So, this rush to victimization, right, also allows people to victimize others. Because people love to justify their behavior. Well, I feel bad because I'm being victimized. This gives me the opportunity and the justification to victimize you. If you don't believe me, well, I think you can clearly see this in groups like, say, again, I'm not picking on anybody, but you can see it. Groups like BLM, who say, be less white. Wait a minute, I don't have any control over my melanin, just like you didn't have yours. So I'm not going to say be less black. Why would I be less white, right? You're trying to associate the color of my skin with moral turpitude. Why? How dare you? Is that or is that not the very definition of racism? Right? I don't have any dislike of anyone because of the color of their skin or their background. I do, however, have feelings about people based on their behavior. And this is something that when I lived in Salt Lake City, I called the Mormon dilemma. And again, I'm not picking on any religion or group of people specifically. I have some very good friends who are Mormons, and they're wonderful people. But on the whole, especially those that live in Utah, because they are the predominant culture there. It is a monolithic culture, has been for more than a century, and they're in charge, right? And they believe themselves, by the virtue of their belief system, their religion, that they are, well, ultimately they're going to be gods, right, and get their own planet. For many, that spills over to where they're accepting their role as a god now in this life. And that means that to them, they have power over you. They're a god, you're not, and you're one of the little people. You're not really even human. And so they can treat you any way they want. And this is no more apparent than on the roadways in Salt Lake City. People drive like total assholes. They cut you off. They'll do everything they can, right? In part because they believe that they're gods. It's a cultural thing. And here's the thing, if you call them out for their bad behavior, immediately they go, oh, like because I'm a Mormon, you're a Mormon basher. And suddenly they consider themselves even more elevated. It elevates their stature in their own mind even more, because this is why we're persecuted, because people don't like us. I see the very same thing in most religions that are legalistic in nature. Right? When you begin to follow the rules, then again, if those rules cannot be fully kept, you can't get a perfect score, right? So, and God doesn't grade on a curve, and so yeah, those Jesus jammies are pretty exciting. I know that. I know, they're amazing. Yeah, special Jesus jammies, you gotta love it, with Masonic symbols on them, of course, because Anyway, to get back to this, right? So I've seen this in religious groups, again, of every kind. Especially those, again, that are legalistic. If you believe that, again, you can't keep the rules to perfection, right? God doesn't grade on a curve. And so the only way for you to compare yourself to others, how am I doing, right, is to compare yourself to others. And by doing so, then you put yourself above them. See how good I'm doing? And way better than that guy. Well, Jesus had some very specific words to say about that, as retold in the Gospels with the story of the Pharisee and the sinner in the temple. And the sinner, a tax collector, had a bad reputation, right? They were considered turncoats. They were colluders. They cooperated with the Romans. And so they were Jews who took money from Jews to pay the taxes to the Romans. And so they were pretty much hated. But, yeah, you can see why. They're collaborators. And so they see this guy in the corner. He sneaks in and hides in the corner and beats his breast. And he says, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And then the Pharisee stands there, gets up on the podium, stands there and says in his best voice, thank you, God, that I am not like this sinner over here. I do all these wonderful things, and I pay tithe, and I do this, and I've never let no alcohol has ever touched my lips, and what a wonderful, thank you. He's expressing gratitude that he's not like that guy. Jesus had words. You can look him up. He was not impressed. Right? And so we see this kind of behavior over and over, that people then begin acting like assholes. And when they do, people respond to that because nobody likes an asshole. And then when they get pushback for being an asshole, they're like, oh, see, you don't like me because I'm so perfect. See, this proves how perfect I am. That's not helpful. At the risk of offending anybody, and I try not to do this, but there are times that I take things from real life. And if this person is listening, again, I will say this, right? First, I did say over the last couple of days I've been a little bit kind of like in a Snickers mood, needed a Snickers bar. The sickness and the tiredness, and I was just kind of exasperated, but, probably a bit more acerbic than usual in different places in real life as well as social media. And so I even apologize. If I say anything that's out of line, forgive me, I'm just kind of not myself. But I saw something, and again, I had an interaction with that person, and I think are a listener from time to time. And again, it's not any... what I want to say, I don't have any negative feelings toward the person, but I think it is a classic example of how people are myopic and cannot see themselves. All right, so this post comes up. Oh, let me start with the old joke, right? So you got the old joke. How do you know if somebody's a vegan? Okay. Trust me, they'll tell you. Right, and hopefully you get the joke. It's not because anybody hates vegans. Probably, hopefully. It's because most people don't really care what other people eat, except those who are choosy about what they eat, and they do so as a moral choice. And because it's a moral choice to them, then the others who do not accept that moral choice, who do not have the same moral values as they do, they see as morally deficient. And then they feel completely justified in attacking anyone who does not conform to their eating practices. Now, whether this is, again, vegans or those who follow ancient religious traditions of not eating pork or shellfish or what have you, the same thing occurs. So I see this posted, right? Oh, and there's also the old joke about the left can't meme. Those two things collided in this post. How do you know when someone's a meat eater? Oh, don't worry, they'll get defensive at the mere suggestion they could make more compassionate choices. My response to that was, here we go, the left can't meme. The person who posted it, and again, I didn't have any idea of what their intention was when posting this. My assumption, frankly, having seen the name before, I haven't interacted a lot with this person, I don't think, but to some degree, and I know they're part of the community. So my assumption, right, was that they were this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek, something I might do, right? Because the left can't meme, because it's a really terrible... It's a really terrible attempt. And so I just was kind of tongue-in-cheek winking, and the person took great offense to it and then began to hammer me personally saying that I'm doing harm, and I'm a bad person, right? Because not only this, I'm being mean. What? And I'm conflating them like vegans with lefties, or okay. So I feel compelled to break this down. And again, it's not because of that person. I have no negative feelings about the person, but I think that what we're missing here, what many people miss, is this, again, what I call the Mormon dilemma. Right. So first, the response was immediately hostile, which indicates that there's some hostility behind it. I didn't have any of that. I just said the left can't meme Exhibit A. Right. And that was kind of tongue in cheek. And so they, I think, took offense because they were thinking I was calling them a lefty. I wasn't really saying that. But I think hopefully you can see the initial problem I have here is that this comes from a place of division and hostility and contempt. And there's no other way to see it. Because here we have the position that, first of all, carnivores are evil because they're taking a moral position here. Second, right, that they consider themselves above the other person. They're more highly spiritually developed because they're vegan. They're not eating other entities. They're not eating other animals. And then, in a hilarious twist of hypocrisy, they're so spiritually developed that they're going to harm others and be mock and denigrate other people. That's not spiritually developed. No, again, I don't even want to talk about the person because it's not. See, here's the thing, and I tried to explain this to the person, right? Is that, and then they were hostile, right? Because I made that point, and accused me of all sorts of things. But what I have to, here's the things that I had to say, and you can probably, though many of you already know who I am, and I'll reveal myself even more if you're friends with me on social media, because you'll connect the dots pretty quickly. And it doesn't really matter. I haven't taken any extraordinary measures. It's been an ongoing joke that I like to troll myself online. But again, really, this post, again, is a complete failure in its purpose, because here's the whole thing. Memes work because there's a truth to them. And when memes try to push something that's not true, it falls flat. Right. So here's, let me look at this. Don't worry, they'll get defensive at the mere suggestion, right? Well, guess what? What's the root word of defensive? Defend. You know what causes defensiveness? What causes a person to want to defend? An attack. And so if you wouldn't go around attacking people for their choices, you probably wouldn't get the kind of pushback. And you see, my point is well made, is that most people really don't care what other people eat, except those who are judgmental about other people. See, there are very few meat eaters who are going around mocking vegans, except those who are just sick and tired of being judged by vegan because of the self-righteous attitude. Now, please understand that my point here isn't to, I have nothing against people who make that choice to eat the vegan stuff. I mean, I was a vegetarian for 2.5 years. I was, for reasons way back in the day. But I was not vegan. I didn't take it that hard. And it wasn't really a moral thing for me. Right? It's just a choice that I made for reasons. That's hilarious, V. Thomas. What do vegan zombies eat? Grains. I love it. I'm going to use that one. I'll send you a check for the royalties. My point being, this begins from a place of judgment, attacks others, and then further demonizes them for responding as any person would when attacked by defending themselves. Yeah, that's spiritually developed, right? So what it shows is a behavior which is exactly like the Mormons. I'm going to be an asshole to you when you don't like it, and you push back, then I'm going to go, oh, see how much better I am? You don't like me because I'm perfect. That proves that I'm good and you're persecuting me. Nonsense. Fucking nonsense. And you're going to see the same thing. And this is how the rulers do it, right? And so you're going to see, mark my words, you will see this. The false accusation of Asian hate is going to get some people that never had the thought before to suddenly dislike Asians. Because that's how it happens, right? No animosity, but you say, hey, this guy hates you. You know what happens? It's pretty clear. And so over and over again, people identify themselves as victims, give them the out card, right? Gives them a pass. Much like there was a city councilman city council woman, whatever person, in I think it was Chicago. Don't quote me on that, but I do remember the story very clearly. And there was and it was a liberal, city council person, and there was a somewhat conservative, which is surprising for being Chicago, or it was up north. I don't remember the exact city, but a conservative columnist wrote an article that was critical of the city council person's positions because they were, frankly, that's typical way lefty crazy shit, and it was crazy shit that they were proposing. Now, the person simply said that these policies are, bad. Right, took on the policies. And I read the article just to be sure. The article was very short. It was really not much more than about 4 paragraphs of op-ed. But everybody in the media on the other side went crazy. In fact, it made the national media, which is how I found out about it, attacking that columnist, and the cancel culture hits, right? Because, how dare you take on a lesbian woman of color? Right? It never made any allusion, even one word about the gender, sexual preference, or race. Not one word. Policy. And as soon, but they can't, can't take the criticism and immediately go on the attack. And this is exactly what you see with those who have any hardcore religious beliefs with no evidence, whether it's the belief in the shape of the earth being something that it's not, right? Or belief in a political system that doesn't exist, or a religious system that is a means of control. If you don't want to hear what the other person says, especially if it's a good argument, simply attack them. What a terrible person you are. And then you don't have to hear anything. And you can dismiss everything they say because it can't be valuable because they're a terrible person. Right? Yeah, and you wouldn't listen to a terrible person. So, and furthermore, if you're, so spiritually developed, that you refuse to eat meat because you don't want to harm anything, but you're going to harm other people emotionally and spiritually for not choosing your choice, for not seeing the same as you. And if you, if you follow the Bible, if that's your thing, there is absolutely zero scriptural support for vegetarianism, veganism, zero. And I defy you to do that one because it's, you would be on very shaky ground to try to prove that one, because I would swarm you with hundreds of religious tests suggesting otherwise. Yeah, unless your religion is Hindu or something that, prevents you eating cow or something, right? So, again, my point here being, I'm not taking on or have any problem with any person individually for any decision that they make, so long as it doesn't harm anyone else. Right? So I don't care if you're a vegan or if you are breatharian. I don't care if you eat mint. That's it. The whole thing. Yeah, I'm in a cult. Well, see, the cult, not necessarily a bad thing. We've denigrated that word as well. Cult simply is the root word of culture, right? What it simply means being completely devoted to an idea, a philosophy, or a person. Well, obviously a person's kind of bad, but I guess unless that's the creator, but to an idea, I don't have any problem with that. Philosophy, sure, I'm completely devoted to the idea of being a decent person. Sure, I'm in a cult, no problem. It's better that than being in the cult of politics, being in the cult of government, being in the cult of scientism, right? So, anyway, to that end, right? So once again, with apologies to the original poster of that meme, I did in my response to them point out what a pitiful meme I thought it was, and so I kind of hope that they weren't the author of it. Probably not. I don't think they were, but they did repost it, and my position was that it seems like, and again, this is it's making some assumptions, but it based on my experience, this is probably what's happening, is somebody coming from a position of inner conflict, and they don't they have tried to convince other people of their position, and other people, they got pushed back, and so they create conflict in their life by judging other people and telling them over and over how bad they are for not adopting their views. Other people don't like it. They push back. It creates conflict, especially probably within their family and friends. And then they begin to have an adversarial relationship with those of an opposing view. And so from that point on, they imagine that anybody who has propensity to eat meat or anything else, or whatever choices that they're not into, is the enemy, right, from Jump Street. And again, it's just my position that I don't dislike anyone because they're Mormon or Catholic or even a Mason. Most of them have no idea, right? They're as duped as the guy in the street who believes that he needs to go get a vaccination, right? They don't know, most of them. I mean, they might have, most people, I think, after time get some clue, some check in their spirit. But again, keep in mind the experiment, right? Keep in mind the Ash conformity experiments, that once you get in and you want to be a part of the club, you'll accept a position you know to be false in order to stay in the club, to not be kicked out, because we need it. And so why am I sharing all this? Well, it certainly isn't, again, like I said, to try to embarrass that person, because I have not said their name. I suppose if you wanted, you could go try to figure it out. If you know who I am on social media, and then you can try to figure it out. You could. I just ask sort of that you don't. I mean, it's not my intention to bug or I mean, I tried to be very clear. I don't have any hostile feelings toward this person, although they did express hostility toward me. But I was very clear to be generalized in my commentary, right? By saying, I don't really, stereotypes exist for a reason, but those reasons are usually valid. Enough people behave in a certain way that you can say generally that a certain thing exists. Does that, does that mean everybody of that ilk is like that? No, but there's a reason for it, and it's usually not made up, or it wouldn't work. Stereotypes don't stick if they are not based in fact. And the same is true, again, with humor. Right? Things that goes back to the whole idea of the left can't meme and what makes things funny. Things are made funny because they have a form of truth to them, and according to Marshall McLuhan, because there is some grievance. Right? Again, think for example of the Seinfeld. Right? What's up with that? Right? That grievance is that something's wrong, and so you're poking at something that you don't like, and you point out the absurdity of it. The thin-skinned don't like that. Right? They don't like being pointed out. It's absurd. See, me, I consider that the reason angels can fly is because they take themselves so lightly. You see, I'm an easy target of a joke, and so I figure if I laugh at myself first, I'll just beat everyone to the punch. And besides, my jokes are usually better than theirs anyway. So there's that. But I share this, again, not because I'm accusing anybody or I think poorly of anybody, but it's a cautionary tale for all of us, including me, right? That it becomes, to some degree, fairly easy when you have gone out of your way, as have most of us, and suffered terribly at the hands of society simply for using your brain and seeking after truth with sincerity. And following truth wherever it leads, and finding that in so doing, we've been lied to. And when you try to alert others to that, like many people do, when you try to save them from themselves, they get angry. You honk your horn at a guy who's about to run over another car, and he flips you off. Because you honk at him, not because, you saved him from hitting another car. Doesn't matter that you saved his life and his vehicle and personal property, you honked at him, and he's mad, right? And embarrassed. So, there you go. That's how people do. That's how they roll. And when you understand this, including yourself, right, keeping again in mind that we are not immune, even to when it comes to the programming. We talk about it. We see it in media, right, all the time. But we're not immune to it. Even being aware of it certainly makes us less prone to it, but we are not immune. And we all come in with certain predispositions and certain prejudices. Sorry, it's true. Because we were raised with it. Now, as we begin to challenge them over time, and you begin to challenge each of these beliefs, you have an opportunity to reconsider, is that really true? And I think most people in this community, and that's how it got its name of the truth community, right, is to do that, to over and over challenge everything that we think we know continuously, right? Even the new things we learn, to try to see this. And so to that extent, right, we have gone through the worst. Brutalization simply for trying to alert others to the truth, right? We could have kept our mouth shut. We could just say, oh, you're on your own. We're gonna save ourselves, and you guys are screwed. But no, we did like Noah, trying to tell others while building the ark. It's a distraction, and we're taking all kinds of abuse for trying to help them. Again, what motivation would we have to lie? No, they never think about that, right? Oh, you just want to be right. No, frankly, we all want to be wrong. I would love to be mistaken about all of this. I don't want any of it to be true. the nature of the world that we're in. It would be much easier if that were not true. But it certainly, the preponderance of the evidence seems to be that we live in a world controlled by darkness. And it has been for a long time, and they have stolen from us almost everything there is to know. Our history, our humanity, who we are, where we are, everything. And so we have to start from scratch, not only from scratch, but uphill, because we're in a hole made by being deceived. And we have to choose whether we're going to climb out of that hole and be alone or stay in the hole with others. And to your credit, nearly every one of you here has decided to get out of the hole. And thankfully, we found each other outside of the hole, but out there in the desert where it is tough. And so we must support one another. And so whether it is within or without this group, but certainly within, but please, even without. If we take the approach with others who we desperately want to see the truth, who we desperately want to not risk their lives and our love of them with an untested experimental DNA altering thing, we're desperate for them not to do that. And it's gonna result in arguments, right? Because everybody's emotionally invested. They think they're doing best. You think they're doing best. You're not arguing because you want to be right. You're pleading with them not to harm themselves. Pleading. But they don't want to be wrong. See, people don't want to be wrong, and they think that if you're trying to tell them you're wrong, you're telling them that they're stupid, right? If you tell them that you've been lied to, they think you're saying instead you're stupid, and they're going to argue against that. And if we take that same approach and tell the ones that we care about, or even strangers on the street, how wrong they are, how dumb they are, and make them feel like shit, you think they're going to want to hear what you have to say? You think it's going to be important to them? You think you're going to not come off as crazy when you say the earth is flat and the government is lying to you and very likely run by interdimensional reptilian-looking beings? That sounds fucking crazy. And of course, because everything that's true, they've conditioned us to think is the craziest thing ever. And so it just sounds nutty. Well, again, it's not the sort of thing you see on TV with, V reptilian from outer space. That's not what we're talking about here. And I think those of you who are in this community understand what I'm saying about the, reptilian and serpentine, the snake and all the culture, the cult of the snake and death worship and all that sort of stuff. We know who we're talking about, right? We know who we're talking about here. But again, this all, you don't think you come off as crazy when they've bought in hook, line, and sinker to that worldview, and your desperation and your flagellation and your the more elevated you become and the more intent you become with trying to express to them the danger that they're in, the less likely they are to hear you. Now, you might feel good about yourself, and if you go out and do activism, and again, man, please hear me when I say I'm not bashing anybody doing activism. I think there probably is a place for it to give people the opportunity to ask questions. But I have seen many people who go out and harass and, again, are just as condescending, are just as vitriolic to those who don't see things as the others are to us. And I understand what it feels like to want to push back when you've been beaten up real hard for a long time for doing nothing but speaking the truth and for positive intentions, for the best of intentions. And all they do is hit and bite and harm. And it just feels so good to put them in their place. But it's not going to help. It won't get you what you want. Because if what you want is for them to see the truth, that won't do it. And we all know, and this is the big part of this, right? This is the issue that we've come to, is that this is a spell. It's an illusion. It's not just a lie. They're under a spell. And you can't expect to snap your fingers and break the spell. And for you, most of us, it took you a little bit of time to process it and to come to it. And the one thing you know for sure is that you had to want it. You had to want to know the truth no matter what it was. Not just an answer, but you wanted to know the truth. You wanted to know the truth at all costs. And that's a rare quality, friend. And good on you for having it. You're amazing. You're awesome. You got this far. Not just this far, but look how far you've come. You made it. You're here. But we're not done yet, right? So now what to do? And again, here's the trite saying, no one cares what you know, how much you know until they know how much you care. There's a truth in that, right? I have often said, as regards to, Christianity, that no one ever became a Christian because they lost the argument, right? That's a relationship. That's an emotional decision. That's a choice of the heart. You can't do that intellectually. You can think about it intellectually afterwards and understand it, but you can't make it with your head. But you can talk yourself out of it with your head, and you can argue about it, but you can't talk someone into a relationship. They have to have it. You can't tell them the truth. In fact, in a way, if this is a test, and it seems to be, if you give someone the answers who didn't study, are you cheating? Let me ask that question one more time, just so you get it, right? Everyone here, I think, has had the experience that difficulty, once overcome, creates growth, right? And this whole process has, for most of us, been extremely difficult and painful. And yet it has resulted in discipline, endurance, right? It has caused us to grow. Can you just hand that to somebody without them experiencing it? Can they really fully appreciate all of it without experiencing it? Do they really get the growth? Do they really? I mean, again, it's very similar in some ways to handing power tools to children, right? They're simply not mature enough to understand it, right? So what are they going to do with it? It'll be dangerous to them and not useful. So, my position is that at this point, I am always willing to discuss the truth with anyone who asks. And I will from time to time ask questions and see what their responses are. But the moment they start spitting those responses and responding with defensive pushback at even the mere suggestion, yeah, we're done. I refuse to play chess with pigeons, and it buys me nothing. It's simply a waste of my time. It's an aggravation, and it risks the opportunity to perhaps do it again at a later time. So I won't do it. Again, is there a place for it? Again, I think everybody's got their own gift, and if you feel particularly called, I mean, where there's nothing else you can do. I don't mean something that you want to do. I mean that you cannot do anything else. If that is true for you, that there is nothing else that you can do beyond. See, the audio's a little low. I'll bump it up just a touch here and see if that fixes you up. How about that? Ran in my train of thought. Oh dear. Yeah. So what am I getting to? Sorry, I just bounced there when I saw that. I'm going to blame you, Singe. Just kidding. You did it to me. All right. Hopefully you can, Singe, I'll count on you to tell me where I was at. No. Again, those who, if you try to give it to them, right, you're taking from them the experience of it. They have to want to know. It's only wanting to know that can ever get you to that place anyway, because the truth is so disturbing. You have to want to know it just to be able to handle it. And you know this, right? You know this. Am I good? No. 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 No, I'm not. I'm struggling, frankly. But I'll be honest about it. I'm not complaining. I'm not whining. Not even really asking for anything, although I'd take prayers always. But no, I'm not good right now. I'm struggling hard. And I know I'm okay with admitting it. There's a lot going on, and I'm doing the best I can to manage it all. but I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to weep or go poor me. It's just going to require extra focus, and it also means that there's some fewer things that I can do in the interim, and that grieves me a bit because I always want to help others, and I'm less able to do that when I'm not feeling well. So it's incumbent upon me. My responsibility then is to feel better, and in order to do that, right, I have to take care of myself, and I have to do some of these things in order to do that. So that's all that. There we go. Anyway, so I wanted to. These are the points I wanted to touch on today, guys. Right? Is that do not make of yourself a victim. You are no victim, even if. Right. So I'm gonna throw this one at you. Right. Even if, and it will probably come to this. And again, please don't take this as fear porn. Please don't take this as prophet of doom or anything. But there it is in Scripture, and so. It seems, between what I see there and what I see in the world, it seems very likely that many people will ultimately pay the ultimate price for what they believe. That we will come to a place that Jesus said that those who kill you will think that they're doing God a favor. We certainly see now people willing to turn in others, to be incarcerated or whatever. I don't think that will change if the penalty is death. And if you believe Scripture and what it says in Revelation, ultimately, that's the deal, is that we either bow down and worship and take the mark of the beast, or the law is you die, right? That's it. That's the law. That's what it says, right? That is what we're coming to. If you believe what Revelation says, right? And so if you believe that, we're all coming to a place where that decision has to be made in advance. And it says very clearly also in Revelation, and again, I read it to you before, that it says those who will be led into captivity are going to go into captivity, and those who are going to die by the sword will die by the sword. And this requires patience of the saints, right, that you don't give up, and that he that endures to the end shall be saved. They're going to threaten your life, and you have to be able to be willing to make that trade, right, to not give in to fear. That does not, what do we call that? That's not a victim, that's a martyr. You fucking win. Right? If they do that to you, you fucking win. There's nothing else they can do to you after that point. They can't threaten, intimidate you. They can't take anything from you. There's not a thing they can do to you after that. Jesus said, don't fear the one who can kill the body. Fear the one who can kill the body and the soul in hell. I think you know what that means. Right? So, and that's not a threat. Again, that's not a threat of punishment. That's encouragement. Right? Don't fear men. They don't have the power to take your soul. Not even the enemy has the power to take your soul. Only you have the power to choose what to do with it. And that makes you fucking powerful. In fact, the most powerful thing in the universe, you have the power of choice, and it was given to you, and that's what makes you a G, a little G God, right? Not the big one, and you can't compete with him. I warn you not to try. I don't think you'll like the outcome, ultimately. But he did make us in his image. And part of that was the ability to create and to choose and to have free will, which is why we're in the position that we're in, frankly, the free will. We chose poorly. But now it's up to you to choose for yourself which way you will go. You can choose to press into the Creator, but I will warn you, doing so will cost you your life. And whether that's your physical life right now or the life you were living before. Because I will tell you from personal experience, you cannot encounter the Creator and engage in that relationship and simply add him to your friends list. That's not really how it works. It's not an app, it's an operating system. It changes everything, and you must, or you will have a very difficult time of it. But once that occurs, there's not a thing that anyone can do. There's not a thing that they can intimidate me with. There's nothing that they can threaten me with. Nothing. The only thing that works on me right now that irritates me is if someone threatens my wife, because I have a low tolerance for that. And I probably will have very little impulse control when it comes to that. Every time it's happened that someone tries to harm her, it doesn't go well for anybody. So in regard to that, right, I will absolutely deal with a lot of bullshit that is directed to me because I don't really care. But if you do it to my wife, you're gonna then we're going to have a problem. But here, ultimately, again, is what I wanted to get to today, right? Is you are not a victim, ever, right? You are not a victim. Now, you were born into a world you didn't ask for. Agreed. It's shitty. Agreed. In fact, it's probably shittier than it's ever been because it looks like we're on the verge of it finally coming to fruition in the end. So, super shitty, all right? In the words of Jesus, we're not there yet, but he did say, a time of trouble such has never occurred in the history of man, nor ever will again. So, he said it's going to be for shit. So, I expect that. It's not a surprise to me. And so, I'm not going to complain when it comes. It just is, right? It's just like, okay, well, we expected that. But to me, again, it makes me more excited now because I know that that's an indication of the end. If it gets really shitty, that means it's going to get better, right? It has to, because that's what he said. And again, I trust him. I have learned that he's good. Now it's me. And here's why I feel the awkward spot is that as much as I want to say, hey guys, you can trust him, because I know that his experience, it's not really my place. And that's not going to help you that much. I mean, it might be an encouragement to say, hey, you can trust him. And you're like, hey, Baldini seems like an okay guy, and I don't think he's lying to me. I'll try it out. Okay. But don't take my word for it. You must know this for yourself. You must have that experience. Or when the chips come down, I really don't want you risking your life on what I said. Because I do ultimately believe that it is going to come down to a matter of life and death. I do believe it. And again, I'm not trying to scare you or there's no fear because I'm not afraid of it. Right? I'm like, let's do it. I mean, again, I'm not in a hurry to leave this world, except that the world is shitty. And if that's the trade-off, yeah, man, don't threaten me with a good time. Seriously, get me the hell out of here and on the train home, first class, bitch, please. Yeah, you know. So that's why I'm far less worried, frankly, about the health situation. It's uncomfortable, it's painful, and I don't like it. And it makes life really difficult right now, and it's pissing me off, and it's in the way, and it's exasperating. And it makes me a person, kind of frankly, I don't like to be. I don't like to be grumpy. I don't believe. I don't like it. But am I in danger? Only of being an asshole, only of doing something to embarrass myself and my creator. Right? I think that I'm here for a minute because fuck the fucking fuckers, right? I have things yet to do. And unless and until he says don't do that, he waves me off, or the unexpected happens and I was mistaken. Fair enough. Take me home. But until then, I'm raring to go, and I got my uniform on. My rifle is clean, all metaphorically. Those assholes who are listening, I know what you're thinking. Fuck you. All metaphorical here, but I'm ready for this battle. And it's a spiritual battle, and you cannot win because you're on the wrong side. Sorry. And when I say that, of course, I'm talking to our friends at the NSA and the intelligence agencies and those who work for it. The dark side. We know who you are. We know what you're about. We're disgusted by you, but we're not afraid of you. And you're going to lose. And it's going to seem for a while that you're going to win. You're going to have everything in your power and you think it's all there. And when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction, you cannot beat the Creator. Sorry. You're dumb. All right. That's what I got for you this morning. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for your kindness, your thoughts and your prayers and your encouraging words. I so appreciate it. And it's so meaningful to me. I can't really fully express how touching it is when you guys reach out and with kind words and your concern, and I appreciate it. I will say don't be too concerned because I don't think this is going to ultimately end me. But it is uncomfortable, to be sure. I'm not going to lie. It's some of the it's the longest period of chronic illness I've ever had, and it's pretty shitty. I'm not going to lie. It's really, really not fun. But man, so many people are going through so much worse than me. I have no place to complain. I just don't like it. And so you won't hear me complain a lot. But again, I feel an obligation to honestly answer those who have concerns. And I know that you care about me and I care about you. And I'm not going to lie to you. It's not great right now. But the prognosis is everything is in Dad's hands. And I trust him. And so whatever comes of that, it's okay with me. It's okay. And that's it. I'm going to be okay no matter what, right? That's just the way it is. And I hope, and this is why I want that same thing for you, because I know that if you know that same Creator, I know you'll feel that same way too, because that's who he is. It's not because of me. It's not because I'm a terrific guy. It's because you know him, right? And he's got it. And so when you know when you know him and you know that he's good and you know what he is, you don't have any fear of anything at all. Only in moments when we forget who he is and who we are to him. In those moments, it can be scary. It's daunting out there. But remember who Dad is and remember who you are to him. And that he loves you. And for those like Listener X talking to the Ceiling Fan Man and said, I don't think he hears me, I didn't hear an answer. I know for sure that he hears you. I don't know, I can't say to anybody that they're, hey, just improve your listening. I don't know the circumstances. I can say that it's often very difficult to hear. You can't really hear when your mind is racing, when you're trying to fight down thoughts. It really takes a lot of effort to learn to meditate to a place you can quiet those inner voices just to listen. It rarely happens the first time, guys. There's rarely that moment of the Saul road to Emmaus becoming Paul. It's remarkable. It does happen, but it's pretty rare. And like I told Ceiling Fan Man, right, who said, and he's not the first person to say to me, oh, I'm kind of jealous, right, that Dad talks to you. I'm like, I don't know that you should be. Keep in mind, it's really intimidating talking to Dad like that because he's scary. And I don't mean scary. I mean just the power that's there. If you've never seen it, it's hard to express, but it's intimidating, right? And but it's full of love, and right away. I mean, my first experience was, oh my God, I'm going to die. And then I realized he loved, and I was just like, what are you doing here? But I understand that maybe it's because I'm just a knucklehead, right? That if he didn't talk to me clearly, I just wouldn't get it. And so maybe, you're the lucky one that you can get the more subtle impressions, right? That you can hear more clearly just from a whisper. He says, Dad says in Scripture, he says, don't be, you can be like a beast, you can be like a dumb animal, and I can pull you around with a bit, right? Or you can be like my child, who I can guide you with my eye, right? Like your mom at the dinner table, and she gives you that look. She doesn't have to say a word, right? She gives you that look, and you're like, oh, right? You don't need to have Dad get out the belt and take you outside and beat you with a willow stick, do you? Yeah, I mean, you can do that. You could be that way, but why? Right? That's what he's saying. There's no need for it. If you get to know me and if you listen to my voice clearly, you don't have to suffer those things. You don't have to go through the discipline. Now, it says that everyone Dad loves, he disciplines, right? And discipline is often not comfortable. And I've experienced this, and I will tell you, if your life is perfect, you better reconsider the direction of your life because that's not really how it works, I'm afraid, especially not in the world we live in now. Right? If you are friends with the world now, you and I are probably not friends because the world hates who we are and what we stand for. So I will say this. If you are still seeking that relationship with Dad, if you want to know the Creator and you feel like he has ghosted you, here's my suggestion, right? I have two things to say, and one is encouraging and one may not be. And I don't know. I can honestly say I don't really know because he doesn't tell me, because when I ask these questions, I've sometimes asked and said, Dad, why you're not talking to this person? They're begging you. They tell me that they're begging you, and who am I to doubt them? They seem sincere. Why do you not answer? And the answer to me is, it's none of your business. It's not your story. And sometimes that really kind of hurts because I feel like it is in time. If it's somebody I care about, isn't that partly my story? But it isn't, and I have to trust that he knows. Right. So, but here's my suggestion. If you're struggling to hear from Dad, right, be quiet, right? Be still and know that I am God. That's his admonition. Be still and know that I am God. It's the still small voice. The story is told of Elijah, and he's going to wait to hear from God. And God says, wait for me out here in the desert, and I'll talk to you. He's out in the desert, and then there's an earthquake. And God was not in the earthquake. And then it was a whirlwind. And God was not in the whirlwind. And there was a firestorm, and he ran into a cave to hide from the firestorm. And God was not in the fire. And he sat there desperate, and he goes, Dad, you said you would meet me here. There was an earthquake, a tornado, a firestorm. Where are you? Dad came and whispered to him. He said, I am not in those places where you expect me. I am the still small voice in your heart. Listen closely. Listen closely. And so if you find it difficult to hear, my suggestion is that you need to, or I'll say you need to. I don't respond well when somebody says, you need to. I don't do that well. So I said, best recommendation, best suggestion, calm yourself, right? Put yourself in a situation where you can be not distracted. No one, so just like you would with meditation, right? Take it seriously. My always best suggestion is the very first thing in the morning before anything bad has happened, before there's anything on your mind, the moment that you get up, right? The very first thing, sit down with Dad and welcome him. Say, Dad, I'm here to meet with you. Come and meet with me. I'm here to meet with you. Come and meet with me. I want to meet you. And then be quiet. And do everything you can just to be quiet and listen with every fiber of your being, every cell of your body. Listen. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Just be. Have a great day, guys. See you tomorrow morning. Questions you ask, are you still my friend? You should know after all that has passed, I am here to the end. And yes, it makes me feel like a fool, knowing I haven't come through for you. No, it's not the same when you call out my name. You've given me to tell of my dreams. And yes, I think that I'll be okay once I let go and you have your way. And no, I'm not afraid, I just don't know what to say.
before.